Being it's the time, I'd like to call the December 2nd Park and Rec Committee meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. For a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Bernie, second by Pam. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'd look for a motion to approve the November 4th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion to approve the November 4th meeting minutes. Second.
John Hass made a motion. Second it? Yep.
Robert did.
Yep. Public comment?
Call the motion.
Pardon? Oops, good call. Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any public comment? Public comment. Hey, Ginger, do you want to talk about that or just want to
What's
make
that?
a motion?
The number 5, yeah, I just have a little bit. So the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, first of all, I want to thank you all for allowing me to miss last month. Had kind of an emergency at my household and it was kind of a nightmare. So everything turned out well, so it was good. And I want to extend a huge thank you to East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission for the work that they did to complete this report. I hope that you all had time to thoroughly review it. And if you would have had anything to say, you hopefully would have brought it to me by now. Also wanted to thank those that took the time to join us in the various stages and processes of the comprehensive outdoor plan, from the pop-up surveys to the time that we spent at the Washington Center going over the different parks. That was a fun activity. That part was very important to our development of the Corp and the future planning of the department. I also want to thank East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission for the additional funding that we received to supplement the cost of the plan. Many municipalities do not have this opportunity, and they have to pay thousands of dollars more to have this engineering, to have an engineering firm come in and do this for their community. I think that East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission sees something special in New London, where they want to do these things like this and the Spark. And they see the potential economic impact that New London has, and they're doing everything that they can because they can see the great things that we could potentially offer. If there aren't any further discussions, I would like to bring to the table this. I'm looking for an adoption of the plan for council for approval.
We're looking for a motion to approve the 2026 through 2030 City New London Comprehensive Outdoor Plan.
I'll make a motion to consider to approve the 2026-2030 City of New London Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan as presented and laid out in the packet. Second.
Motion made by John Hass and second by John Fouché. The opposite way, okay. John's around. We'd have any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Updates and reports, Ginger.
Just as you reviewed in my packet, I also just have a couple additional things that I would like to talk a little bit more about. Thank you to Chad for stepping in for me last night to present my capital. I would like to take a little more time to talk about the tennis courts at a committee level eventually. That's why I have it on a potential agenda item for future meetings. A simple Google search will show the common community minds. There are a variety of issues bringing pickleball courts into a neighborhood park like Abraham. In the professional world, we have entire conference sessions on these issues and how to address them. there are additional fees, and additional cost, that can mitigate these problems. But I think that the only advantage that we have right now in not having pickleball courts is that we can learn the mistakes from other communities have made so far. I have articles, news clips, and studies showing that the noise, traffic, and quality of life negatively affects the nearby residents who may have sought a quiet neighborhood when living in their locations. I would like to have this conversation at a committee level, to cohesively bring together a plan for the city's parks, tennis courts, not only with us, but also with the school district. Remember that in I believe, 23, they came to us and wanted to suggest some tennis courts out at the high school. So with that, I'll be asking some of you that are interested in having a conversation with maybe some school board members, potentially with, the school district administration, and just seeing where we're all at in a community so that there's not 20 courts in New London, and just some quality courts in New London. So I know that was a question when we brought up the courts at Abraham Park, and I think that we need to have that conversation. Another thing that I want to bring up is that Outagamie Parks is currently doing their comprehensive outdoor plan. Please take time to fill out their survey as well. We have a very close relationship with Mosquito Hill Nature Center, and I think that as Outagamie County looks at the future of that facility, it's important that we pay close attention to its development. And then just another note of interest, I don't know if anybody's been watching the news, but the city of Appleton is going through a very relatable situation with their Memorial Park / Veterans Park renaming situation. Those facilities due to the contents of their parks, i.e. Taft Park with the memorial, Veterans Memorial. So there may be some lessons to be learned there. I can't wait to talk to their executive director and see how that goes. But I know it was a conversation during that time period when we were transferring over the use of Taft Park. So all good things, all if anybody has any questions or anything like that, if anybody needs a link to the Outagamie County Corp, I would gladly share that. But other than that, that's all I have.
Yeah. At this time, we'll skip number 7, and we'll go down to reviewing the next meeting date, Tuesday, January 6th. Does that seem to work for everybody? We have no objections to that. Then I guess we'll go to the economic development. Want to get in the picture now?
Yep. At this moment, I will call to order the Economic Development committee meeting for December 2nd. We have done the Pledge of Allegiance with the Park and Rec. We have roll call. I would like to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make that motion.
Okay, motion made by Bill, seconded by Colt. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the October 28th meeting minutes as presented in the packet.
I'll make a motion.
Motion. This is for economic development.
Yeah, you can't make that motion. You're fine. No?
It's all right.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Okay, second by April. I didn't hear the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public comment? Okay, we are caught up.
So just so everybody on YouTube knows, we are doing a joint committee meeting between Parks and Rec and our Economic Development Committee meeting or committees to have a joint discussion on our Spark placemaking space in the downtown. So Bob, I'll kick it to you for that.
Okay, it's the discussion for on Pearl Street here.
Because both committees can, everybody here can comment on.
Yep.
We got any discussion on it?
So we just wanted to bring this together, and kind of make sure that we're moving forward in the project. Is this where we want to go with what the concepts that we've seen that Ayers has driven up, or do you want me to, do you want to instruct me in moving forward with those plans? Do you want to instruct me in saying, wait, that's not what we want? I think this is ridiculous or whatever, whatever you guys want. I think that we've all kind of got a good grasp on what they put together, and the next step would be to, first of all, get a probable cost estimate on engineering and design, which is a pretty simple task. And then moving forward and putting out RFPs for that engineering and design. It's a huge project. It's a multifaceted project. I think that this is kind of 4 projects in one, I would say. But initially it would be one big project with the engineering and design. So likes, didn't likes, what are you guys thinking about what we have so far? Is there anything else you'd like to see here? Is there something that you're like, well, that's not necessarily something that looks like New London? So
Is the biggest part of this going to be kind of the area by coming into Swiderski's at the park down there and the.
yep, that's what we see here on the screen. So this will be the most expensive portion. I think just kind of redesigning the flow of that alleyway into the parking lot, making it pedestrian friendly, making it event friendly. Yeah, and that's the hugest footprint of all, so.
You know how that's gonna hinge on what happens with the lady that wants to put the little beer gardens and stuff down there?
Overall, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, like Ginger had in her memo, you've had a month now to look at this Spark report, and it kind of gives you conceptual ideas of what could be in that area. So I think, one of the major things was to have a general discussion between both committees. Do you like this concept? Do you not like this concept? But then, like Ginger said, what's our goals with this? What do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish? We've seen many studies in the past, various studies, in the downtown that talks about how do we capture the resources of the river, the natural resources in the area, and how do we, get the businesses to utilize the resources of the river a little more. This may give us that opportunity. We can talk about that a little bit more, but like Ginger had in her report, what's our goals for this space? Do you like this? Where do we want to go? I know Hans had his hand up in the back as well.
Well, I seem to recall that in terms of order of operations, one of the things that we needed to accomplish before we would really work on the site design was determine the feasibility of purchasing the other parcel next to the city-owned parcel. Has there been any movement on that?
Yep, I can comment on that. So after this Spark report came out, I was able to have a conversation with the owner of the parcel. So there's 3 parcels in between Longevity Nutrition and Wolf River Pub. The city owns the northern 2 parcels. The owner of the Wolf River Pub owns the southern parcel of those 3. I was able to have a conversation with him about that. He is interested in having a conversation of possibly selling that to the city to expand this other design for this pocket park, if you want to call that, in that area. I have reached out to our city assessor to get an idea of what he feels the value of that parcel is. And once I have that, then I was going to go back to the owner and then start having conversations with him to see if he's interested, if we're in the ballpark, if we're not, to start with. So the first thing was to get an idea what the cost value of that parcel is, and that's in process. Our assessor is also the assessor for the city of Clintonville, and they're just finishing up their reval process, so he's been heavily busy on that. He just called me yesterday and said he's finishing that up and he's gonna start focusing more on New London. So I'll have that soon, but yes, that's in process.
Going back to your or your question, Bob, what we have kind of etched out here, I think is programmable space by anybody, whether it be Kim and her plans or the city or rental space, like, you know, having a food truck fill out a permit to use that space. That's all. In my mind, I'm thinking revenue, like that could be a revenue space for the city.
Isn't Anchor Park another one of the bigger?
That's also included in this program, and then also St. John's Park to make that less, and they didn't provide any sketches on St. John's, but that's a pretty simple flip of just making the park more street facing and the parking lot side facing. So I did some of my own sketching on that.
So to that point, this could expand into several areas in the downtown, not just the one.
Right.
And to provide the opportunity for some cohesiveness between those areas in the downtown. So to like Ginger's point, I'll bring up the aerial map. If you recall, the last time we did a Spark program, it was called something else with East Central. They provided an option or an idea to actually flip the park around, move the parking to be a little bit more on the west side of that, move the park to be more on the east side of that, so that you allow the green space to get to the downtown street. Right now, the parking lot kind of separates all that. So, you know, this engineering planning could be to redesign that, like we talked about years ago, like Ginger talked about with Anchor Park, and then also this placemaking space here.
That proposal to flip the park, St. John's Park, also at that time had the added benefit of creating another outlet out of the alley.
Yep.
Or into the alley, so to speak, but
Correct.
another way in and out.
And I just want to weigh in here. The reason we decided to do a joint meeting here is because the Economic Development Committee, we have been talking a lot about placemaking and those pocket parks. And whatever we bring forward, that ends up falling onto the Park and Rec department. So making sure that we're having conversations together, we're making plans together, we're moving cohesively as committees to get things done. And I did task him with reaching out to find out if we can purchase that property. And then because before we can put together an RFP, we need to know that. We need to have an RFP together and have the engineering designs together in order to get any of the grant money. So it feels like 2026 is going to be our planning for these. There's a big grant out there that is closing in, you said March of 27?
There is the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation placemaking grant that is offered this year. I can't say about next year. We're hoping that it's continuing the program, but there is applications due for March of 2026. We're hopeful, like to your point, that if we want to continue with this process, we could get some designs, you know, cost estimates and some planning done, that if that grant is available in 2027, we would be in position to apply for that.
Yeah, so there's grants out there now that we're not ready to apply for. We want to make sure that we get in position to apply for grants. There's some of them that are economic development grants that, and then there are some that are Park and Rec grants, but we can if we've got the engineering designs, if we've got the things together, we can figure out which portions are paid for by which grants. And it feels like it's gonna take us this next year to figure all of that out.
Ginger, did you have some, designs and stuff in that group when they were here that time? Did they leave any stuff with you?
Nothing more than what's in the packet. That was kind of I mean, it was a free program. And they want us, I'm sure, to have heirs do the work. So, yeah, they kind of keep that all. It's kind of like a free trial period.
Yeah, and again, this is extremely conceptual. Any final designs could and probably will look different, but I think the main point for tonight is, what do you guys think? What's your feedback? Do you guys like this type of concept? Do you want us to continue that thought process, or is this not something that you guys are interested in, that the city pursues? And I think the opportunities right now is, what do you guys think? We're looking for some feedback.
Are we losing any parking spots? I mean, we just went through an era where people were complaining there's not enough parking downtown. Are we giving up parking spaces here?
I would say that's hard to determine, because what you see is very conceptual. So as an engineering process goes through, you would determine, what you have now, what's possible to fit in. I think parking is obviously, to your point, very important. Where any facility or, structures, programming space would go in a private area that's there, obviously that parking, it's not designed parking today, but people are using it for parking. Obviously that does go away. But there's a lot of street parking in this area. We did make a point of trying to include some additional parking, as you can see with the Circle Drive and additional parking here. So I think parking is going to be part of the evaluation process as we move forward. But to tell you we're gaining or losing, it's too early to tell.
It's definitely in the engineering stage.
Anybody else got anything else on it?
So, because we got two committees and two different, we have to kind of decide, don't we, about where the money's gonna come from for the plans, like some from economic development. Obviously, the park budget's set. That's more of a solid planned expenditures for the year or whatever, but is there funds left over from this year's budget in economic development that could go to get that plan for this? Because I get the consensus, we kind of like what Spark brought forth. And we need to get some kind of plan together, especially if we're gonna apply for the WEDC grant in March, which probably would look good if the Economic Development Committee pennied it up for some of that preliminary design stuff, which we'd have to have by March.
Will that be March of
2027?
2027? Yes.
Okay.
So yes, there is some money in our economic development reserve account. We don't know how much this would be. Ginger has a great opportunity for a conference, if you want to kind of talk about that, for just getting ideas.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take this down, in February, we have our annual conference, I'll take this down, the whole packet, I've got friends in engineering firms from all over the state, and just kind of, what do you think of this? Do you think this is gonna be a $8,000, I'm not gonna say any lower than $8,000, engineering and designer, do you think it's gonna be a $50,000 one? When I did that with the nature center, it was 50 and up. So, this is a very complex, especially that location, with utilities. That'll be an interesting see. But the other two shouldn't cost that much, I wouldn't think. So I'll have that opportunity, just kind of, probable cost estimates are easy for them to come by, so,
The other two being the existing parks
yeah,
on the other side.
yeah. St. John's and Acre, or Old City Hall Square.
I feel like we're at the exact situation we were a few years ago when we were looking at the complex, the Swiderski complex and we just, you know, we're trying like moving forward. We don't know what we don't know. I mean, if we're asking for initial, buy-in, you know, I'll say yes, absolutely. I think we should, whatever the next steps are, because we don't know what the next steps are. And I don't know what that means. So I don't know exactly what we're looking for here. But I feel like it's in the same situation of like,
So what I need is marching orders, to go ahead with the probable cost estimate. Do you like this context or do you want something different? Do you like this or not? Because I can go back and say, you know, we've got this location, how would you develop it? And then it would be a totally different design that a different person would put together, so.
but once you came up with the probable, what'd you call it?
Probable cost estimate,
Okay, once you
yeah.
got that, I imagine there's still variations or variabilities that this thing could go in different directions
Yes.
other than this picture or?
Yeah, you're not definitely sold, but that's the best way that we can budget
Sure.
finance for that.
I would, yes.
So with the probable cost estimate breakout, for example, I mean, you've got the two existing parks, a new pocket park, and then this sort of revamp of that existing area. And that- is
Berkshire
that sort of the
Walkway.
four
Yeah,
projects that you're
yep.
talking about?
Exactly.
So the cost estimate would break out
Yep.
each of those four. So for example, if you came back to us or either one of the committees,
Yeah.
you would say, this is what it would cost to move forward. And then the committees could decide, well, I don't think we can afford this, but we can afford these right now.
Phases, do
Yeah.
it in phases?
Absolutely. And I think that's how we're going to have to afford to do all of this, so that's perfectly normal.
And I think where the economic development and park are, so it's actually one group really. So I think it's really important that we stay, connected with economic development.
Yeah.
It's all one, everybody's after the same thing, really.
Yeah, I agree.
From a timing perspective, Kim, like, does any of this stuff affect your project and your timeline?
Since we're looking to restructure how we're doing the project, we're able to restructure it into going in phases as well. So being able to grow with the space. So if we're looking at 2027, we initially will put a building, we'll be able to start doing some events, but then seeing how the space responds to both the public and the private, and to be able to see how we need to develop, how we need to grow, and then be able to work with it. I don't see there being, I mean, every project has some sort of obstacles, but I don't see there being anything that's not going to be able to be solved by communication. That partnership.
And Kim and I have a meeting set up next week to continue that conversation about what her plans are. So that's to be continued as well.
Another thing to keep in mind as far as the timeline goes is our Pearl Street project. And whenever that happens, it's a good saving opportunity to be able to, just like what we did with the overflow boat launch and the Public Works Department in the North Street project. And if a construction company is set up and here to work, potentially that can cut off some time and money in their bids. So we wouldn't take it out to bid together, but we could potentially say, hey, we also have this project if you're interested in it as well. And that saved us substantial money over at the Wolf River Overflow Boat Launch. So, and we don't have an exact timeline for that yet, but near future.
So is it consensus that we should keep going? Is everybody in that?
I
frame of
still
mind?
don't believe we should close that street off.
Smith Street, you mean?
Both of where it loops around.
So we can include that in the engineering. There's a lot of different new technology to be able to close it off during times when they perhaps apply for the door, like we had talked about with the special events permits of having a downtown outdoor. Do you remember, Mayor, what that stood for? But we had talked about that. There's potential to leave that as an open street and still have the ability to close it off.
Why do you say that, Richie? Why do you suggest leaving that open?
If we have anything at that, apartment complex, or the fire department has anything, we're gonna have to put a truck on that street.
That's why I asked, like, cause I assumed you had a different perspective.
You know, and if something happens where somebody drowns behind State Farm, that's where we set up.
And there could be different
mean, that-
options for.
That thing they got
emergency
designed there
services.
looks great.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you still gotta look at the emergency aspect of everything,
Yeah.
not
so-
just to close off the streets, just to throw parking.
I agree. I think that that green space along there, where the walkway goes from the alley to the river should be probably removed. And that's just an open concrete drivable area. That whole area then moving to the west with where they have the lights crossed should also be an open concept drivable area.
Yeah, they did mention having it open so you could drive food trucks and all that kind of stuff through there.
Yeah,
You got utilities back there and everything else.
right.
I just feel like we went off the rails with this. This started as a placemaking project. We were talking about putting up some Edison bulbs, maybe some benches, some planters, or now we're talking about adding a whole new park. Selling the land to Kim, which I encourage her enthusiasm, and I like when people invest in our community, but I feel like now this has become a private, she's gonna be making money off of this. It's not just a community project, which is fine, you know, I wanna help out the community, but we're losing parking. We're gonna have a safety issue. Where's the money coming from? There's a lot of, it just, we've gone down a rabbit hole. I feel like maybe we need to take a couple steps back. Like I said, placemaking was the original idea of this area, and now we're building a whole nother park, and there's gonna be money, there's gonna be safety, whatever, roads. I mean, it just, I don't know, there's a lot of concern for me. Kim, I'm really happy you're here. I know we had a deal with you. We deeded you the property for a certain amount of investments. And now we're talking about stages and so I guess there's a lot of questions in my head. So I just wanted to.
How would you like us to move forward with those questions? Because I think that's what the point of having it on the agenda is, to just continue this conversation. We could. I mean, we've already did a community, you know, this was a community project. We invited people in to give their feedback in that sense. We can do it again. I don't know how much we'll get from that, but I guess that's a great
I guess, you
conversation to
know,
have.
the biggest concerns for me is parking. You do have limited parking there. You're not, I know you're saying we're not gonna lose spots, but we are, because that lot behind the Wolf River Pub and Longevity, all that has been used for parking for those establishments. Now we're gonna add in a whole nother business in there with less parking. That's gonna be, you know, a problem.
So over the course of the summer, before this started, I went to Chad, and I think we started back in, I don't remember when we started.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to bring that up tonight. Let me think
So
on that.
anyway, we went through and we did a survey, a parking survey. And just at random times throughout the course of the day, the evenings, we even, when the summer kickoff hit, we went down and we looked at the parking along Wolf River Avenue and in the parking lot behind the 300 block of Pearl Street, and in the spaces where behind the pub. And we discovered that there's a lot of parking that's not being utilized. And it's right there across the street from where they're parking behind the pub. There's just a lot of space that isn't being utilized. So as far, we could do an actual official parking study. We could have that done as well to see what the needs are. But I was quite surprised when I went through and I was looking at what I considered peak times down at the pubs, at how much parking was left available. And honestly, the most of the parking that I saw behind Wolf River Pub and behind Longevity was the Swiderski teams who were being allowed to park there. You started seeing the same exact vehicles over there. So, and very, very few of them over by the State Farm ever parking in that space where people are concerned about the circle parking, losing parking. There was hardly any cars ever there. So when you look at where people are parking, how many stalls there are available in those areas, and how many are actually filled, I needed to know. And I went to Chad and I said, I don't know, is it an issue or is it not an issue? And I need to know that, and I need to see numbers. And I was talking to people and I'm like, I never see that lot full. Other people were saying I see it full all the time. So we just went out and we did a impromptu, unofficial survey of the different times and the different days, and there's lots of parking available. And I understand that New London has a different perspective on parking than places like Appleton or Milwaukee or even Chicago, where you have to walk maybe 2 or 3 blocks to get to where you need to go. But we're talking literally across the street. There's a large parking lot across the street that is not being utilized.
And
It could be.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I think that the Spark Study's main goal was walkability, and cohesiveness with those things. It was a transportation, they tried to mesh in a little transportation in there too. The cohesiveness of downtown is what I was really looking forward to, and including those parking lots that are kind of a secret, and just highlighting them, putting cohesive signage that is the same as the downtown Pearl Street sign or North Water Street signage, and you know, just going through and making sure that people know this is a city parking lot, like the Dowderman lot. That's where people can park. And it seems awkward. I feel awkward pulling in there too, because you're pulling right in behind these businesses, but it's there for you.
Right.
And I think that's a really good point.
But now you're
And
adding
they
a
brought that up.
destination. You're adding a destination. This is now a pocket park. This is placemaking. This is another business coming in there that's gonna be requiring more parking.
And we have parking available. That's what we're saying, is we have parking on both sides of Wolf River Avenue and these lots.
You have a question in the back.
Nope, sorry.
Well, more of a comment and then I'm gonna make a motion, I guess, if that's what you guys are looking for. And I agree with Tim that this started out, I think it was originally my suggestion to talk about placemaking, and then we looked at that pocket park location and it's just kind of taken off from there, which is great. And we don't have to make any kind of a decision as to what we're going to move forward with and what we're not going to move forward with right now. It's certainly possible that we get this cost estimate back and we say, good Lord, the only thing we can afford is the pocket park or something along those lines.
Yep.
And so I don't think there's any harm in moving forward today and just getting those costs, seeing what the options are, what we're comfortable with. And so I would make a motion, if that's what you're looking for, encouraging the Parks Director to move forward with seeking a probable cost estimate on the Spark recommendations or Spark plan. And then to come back to these committees.
Guess we could poll everybody and see if everybody is in favor of following through in the discussion on it.
I would like to make a comment first. As a citizen that I visit a lot of those businesses quite often, and I know several of the owners. I know that that kind of layout, I 100% agree that we need to make sure we have emergency access. That's a really big deal. Parking is obviously a concern, especially when you have larger vehicles going through town, absolutely. But I do know several businesses there and owners would love the opportunity to have 4 or 5 food trucks come in and have an event in their parking lot. I can speak for the insurance agency on that street, not to name them. I can speak for one of the bar owners there that would love to do the same thing. They've talked about at some point maybe having an event in their own parking lot. You know, by Hortonville at the vineyard there, they had 4 or 5. This last year, they had 4 or 5 food trucks come in and they called it a community program, and where everybody could come in, sample all the food, support your local businesses. And there were hundreds of people there walking around, throwing out cash like it was no man's business to all the local businesses and getting to taste different foods. So you know that that didn't just support the local businesses for that day. You know that when they saw those businesses later, they stopped again and they got to meet new people, experience something different. So why not have more parking? Why not have that as a community program? Get to know some of our small food truck businesses. Throw something for them as the city. Have them pay their permits and get the community together for something like that. I'm sure there's a couple businesses that would be all for that, and they'd even sponsor some of the permits for that for people to come in and do it. It's a great way to introduce people to our little town, and it's right where everyone wants to be, especially around St. Patty's Day.
I guess I kind of agree with Tim when we're looking at some aspects of this that, I mean, our money's getting spread thin enough right now. I think we're all aware of what's going on. And it might be a big pill to bite, but who knows if there's some grant money out there. And I kind of agree with Hans, that if you want to get something started, at least got to have a plan. And then if the plan doesn't work, we realize it's too much, you say, well, we had an idea. But I agree, Tim, that it started with a small project. I think it'll be great, and I'm not going to argue that a bit. But I think it's going to be hard to fund with what we got coming up. Just being honest.
I think you're right on. I mean, costs is a factor, especially with everything going on. So, I mean, just like several of other projects that probably wouldn't have happened without the grants, this is probably another one that probably won't happen without grants. There is and possibly some opportunity. I would need to investigate this yet, but we do have our downtown TID. And this is exactly what TID districts are about, is creating spaces and putting public investment in areas to support the TID district. Now, April and I went to a Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation meeting a couple of weeks ago in Port Washington, where the talk was downtown. And a lot of people were talking about, in April type in too, a lot of people were talking about the tourism aspect. What do you have going on, especially in your downtown, for tourism, and how important that is for supporting the downtown and bringing people from the outside the community to come in and support your community, like you said, spending the money. Creating these venues where you've got activity, you've got a beer garden, you've got food trucks, you've got, you know, farmers market spaces. That's the tourism aspect that we really don't have something on the river like a Fremont, you know, downtown Fremont and things like that. So 100%, our budgets are tight. You will not hear me disagree with that, you know, but if there's opportunities for grants, if we can use TID funding, can we make some of these things possible? And the Rotary Club, members of the Rotary Club has talked about being stewards and being involved in projects like this. These type of things draw people into your community for tourism. And the tourism studies show that that's the first indication or first exposure to your community. When they're thinking about moving to a new community, they think about the areas they've visited with tourism. Things like this is what draw people in. To give you exposure for growth, and that's something we have to do. We have to grow, you know, just support all our budgets. So
think some of the discussion about food trucks and all that was a great idea. I think we're cramming too much in one space, and I'm really sorry. I gotta be playing devil's advocate, but that beer garden right in the middle of it is a problem. I think that if we had more space, had parking and areas for food trucks to set up, it'd be better for the community. Then, so maybe have that part of your plan as well, have it where another design where there is no beer garden. I would want to save you from yourself. I know 500,000 is a lot of money to return on your investment. I think that was a very, I'm just saying, it's very ambitious and.
So in order, working things backwards to where we are, in order to do anything and get any grant money, we have to have the engineering plans. Before we have the engineering plans, we need to know how much they're going to cost. That is where we need to direct Ginger to take that first step. Are we going to do a preliminary cost estimate on an RFP for some engineering plans? Once we've decided if we're going to do that or not, then we can decide what the space will actually end up looking like. When we go out to do the engineering plans, where we're going to have the output, where we're going to have the throughput, what's going to be where's the parking going to be, where are we going to set up the food vendors. That's all part of the instructions that we give to the engineering designers. So the first question is, are we going to even go down the road to get to that, to do anything with these spaces? Because we can't do anything without the grants, pretty much.
Right.
So if we want to talk about doing anything in these spaces, we need to know what it's gonna look like,
And
just in engineering design.
discussion is good, but there is a motion on the floor.
Oh, that's right,
Remind you.
sorry.
And a second.
And April, did you second?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second, so chairman's,
So that was Hans's motion to direct Ginger to come up with the probable
plan.
cost estimate.
Does everybody understand what it is? All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. Ginger, I guess you to go move forward then.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna call for adjournment for the Park and Rec Committee meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Bernie and seconded by John. All in favor?
Hi.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Do you need to take a quick break?
no, we're just gonna continue. I'm gonna label this as joint park and rec economic development, so we'll just.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, with that, then we will move on to what is number 6 on our agenda item, which is discussion of the 2026 economic development focus. And I think this is a great segue from where we were talking about the Spark placemaking projects and where we want to go in 2026. So we had been talking about, one of the concerns that Tim brought up was that we went from Edison Light placemaking to having huge pocket parks, looking at buying additional property, having sold property, looking at putting in new roads, new parking, eliminating parking, whatever we're doing. But what is the economic development focus for 2026?
I had some conversation at the downtown facade, and I don't know where we're at and what we can and can't do with that. With the economic future ahead of us, and lack of food and funding to our community, if we could redirect some of those focuses on helping out our community that are less fortunate. I don't know if that's in terms of grants that people can apply for or what, just bringing their idea to the floor of redirecting some of these facade grants to helping the general public that is less fortunate.
So you had some people ask you to take those grants and put them into what type of programs did they kind of?
They didn't really specify. It was more of helping the general public that is less fortunate for food items. Maybe a family that lost a job or a home for fire, or helping out the general public per se, rather than directing it downtown. So
I like the idea of it, but we also have limited resources when it comes to supporting our businesses. That's the one thing that we're able to offer to our commercial downtown and just our downtown district. I think it's important to look at that aspect, but I would just hate to take those funds away from our businesses.
yeah, like I said, I don't know what the ratifications of even looking at that aspect is, but it was brought up. So I thought I'd bring it to the.
What kind of support right now does the city offer towards, like food pantry, that kind of stuff? What's the relationship there with the city?
Very little, to be honest. We don't have a budget or in our budget for direct exposure or direct support of any of the food pantries. The city was quasi involved with the food pantry that's located at the Washington Center at one point in time. Since then, that's been an external group that has taken that on and blossomed that program since then. But other than that, there's no funding that we have that we're struggling enough as is with programs and equipment and things that we have that we honestly have not gotten into that realm of directly supporting any of the food pantries or any other programs like that.
If I could add to
Yep,
that,
go ahead.
I was the director that took over the food pantry and then eventually was directed by council to no longer and hand over that role to the Washington Center. It was kind of the thought that taxpayers are not paying their taxes to help out the community in that way. It was more like, let's let those groups and nonprofits do that work because that's what they're good at. And let the city do their business of supporting everyone in the community and not just individual people. So there was a very strict vetting process with ours because of that, which was very hard to maintain. We tried to ask for citizens only to come to the food pantry, and it was very rare that we were turning people away, and that's not a good look either, because they weren't New London citizens, City of New London citizens. So it was definitely hard to let go of because it was a very heartwarming thing to do, but it was the council's decision because they didn't feel they were comfortable with the tax money going towards that, which was also my administrative fees, so part of that was included. So that's the history on the food pantry with the city.
Thank you, Ginger. I'll let you go ahead.
So switching gears a little bit, just with 2026 economic development focus, I just threw some things in my memo about what is coming up, what's in the pipe, and just to kind of give you guys some ideas of what's happening. There's a lot going on, as you can just see by the information here. Residential development, obviously we've got the SC Wolf River expansion going on downtown. They've got another 31-ish acres on the east side of the community that they're going to be working on. There's the Celestial Hills, East Ridge, North Point properties. We were working with another developer to work on the Irish Meadows development. So there's quite a bit going on and a lot of work being developed on the residential development side. I've got another meeting with another developer on Friday that came out of the woodwork and just contacted me and has their eyes on New London too. So we've got a lot going on there. There's also been a request to have the city consider changing the city's comprehensive plan future land use map along with some zoning for some areas on the north side of New London, specifically east of Aldi's. We've got another developer that's interested in putting some apartment complexes in that area. That's TID number 7. So that would be TID developed areas up there, which would be a good thing. But there's a lot going on for residential development. Good to bring more people in the community, but just to let you know that there is a lot going on already with that. Commercial retail growth, obviously that has highs and lows. There's vacant retail space in the downtown or in the whole community, as April reports on every month. There's obviously a lot of national, federal, and state influences going on with what's going on. So it's not just the local level, but across the country. So those influences kind of come down to the local level. But I do think that once the SC Swiderski project opens up, when the 2 sixplexes that are across from SC Swiderski on the corner of Wyman and Wilbur Avenue, once that gets going, that's going to increase foot traffic in the downtown. So that's going to be all positive things with that. So we keep on, April and I continue to communicate left and right with leads and different ideas about commercial growth, especially like the retail side, what's going on. So there's a lot of conversations going on in that world. Manufacturing, this is an area where we continue to do face challenges. I do have contacts with manufacturers, but and especially I'm involved in the new North network. That's Northeast Wisconsin. It's the new Northeast Wisconsin Economic Development Region. They do send out information and requests on a regular basis about potential sites for development, and anything that's even close to being considerable in the request, I'm shooting information back, trying to promote New London with that. Unfortunately, I would say 95 of those manufacturers are looking for existing space. Every time, that's the first thing, is existing space that they want to renovate. They've got on the bottom of their requests, or vacant land, they got some information about vacant land, but I would say 95% of manufacturers today, they're looking for existing space to renovate, just because evidently that's a more cost-effective and viable option for them. So it's a good thing that we don't have a lot of vacant manufacturing spaces in town, but it's a hindrance. There's a challenge too, because we don't have vacant space to bring anybody in. So double-edged sword there. So, but we'll continue to promote manufacturing. If there's ideas, the things we want to do to kind of, highlight our industrial park, like we talked about, maybe putting signage. We're looking at doing the billboard this year. I think those are good things, positive things to highlight that. But manufacturing space, I think that's an area that hopefully we can start tapping into and increasing that a little bit. And then the downtown is the heart of our community. So if we're going to be exploring this Pearl Street placemaking project and increasing the placemaking and the event space and the tourism space in the downtown, to be determined if we take that route. But my point for all this, there's a lot going on. You can see these things that are on the docket already. I didn't even put in there about the hotel feasibility study that's been on my back burner for a long time. So I guess my point is a lot of cool stuff, a lot of things going on. Be careful, don't throw more onto me, because it's kind of hard keeping up right now. But I guess these are kind of focuses of what's happening currently, what I see going into the 2026. But if there is something that we really want to target more, now's the time to kind of have the discussion.
So you've done a lot of really good work there. I was just wondering, do you have any ideas or thoughts of what we can use our economic development budget for?
I think the interest in the downtown facade improvement grant this year was extremely popular. I did have several businesses who did apply. Their plans did either change or fall through. So there was a handful of them that ended up not doing the projects. But I do continue to get a lot of interest in next year projects. So I would definitely, once we come to the point, if we're going to renew that program, I've gotten a lot of interest in that. So, and this year was the highest year ever that we've had for the downtown facade improvement grant. And it shows. I mean, you go through the downtown, it showed this year. I think this is the first year that I really saw a big difference in that investment, which was really kind of cool. Whether we use it for placemaking, opportunities, I've kind of thought about a little bit, that there's advertising that you can do in, trade magazines. I don't know enough about that, if the return on investment is enough for those type of things, I guess I really haven't gotten into, I see that in trade magazines that the communities highlight their industrial parks, I don't know. I think Lou did that when I came here. He was doing some of that. And I don't know if that had any, return on the investment for doing those type of things. But I think having conversations and that personal touch, I think between what April and I are doing with the developers and the contacts, I think that goes a long way. We're showing that we're a small community. We're showing that we're reachable. We're showing that we can be contacted and we're all helping. I think that really shows volumes about what the chamber and what the city together do for economic development in the community.
Growing our residential base, it helps, I'm presuming, our tax revenues, helps the school district, brings people into town to spend money, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of things can this committee do to help on the residential end? It just seems to me like there's so much bang for your buck on bringing families into the community for a lot of reasons. Like you're going to have them coming in to restaurants, you're going to have them using the grocery stores, you're going to have them using the other services here in the community. And over and over and over, not just a tourist coming in for one day and leaving. What kind of things can we do to help with that?
Looking at what we're experiencing right now, I feel like I'm behind in the requests and the conversations. I'm working on a development agreement for the Irish Meadows one. That's been on my plate for a couple months now. I wanted to have that done already. There's so much going on right now with our zoning updates, things like that. So number one, staffing, just to keep up with things. But we have set ourselves up that we are hiring a community development director to help with the zoning aspect and the land use aspect of it. That's going to immensely help me because I'm doing a lot of that now, working on plats, helping Dave with plat review, the zoning information. So once we hire that community development director, I think that's going to help immensely on this, I'm hoping, immensely on the staffing side to help continue give developers what they need to continue to grow and run it. So that position closed on Sunday. We have 13 applications. I'm working on evaluating those now, and I'm hoping in a month or so we have somebody in mind that we can make an offer to and help us with that growth. So I think that'll be, knock on wood, I'm hoping that's going to be a huge benefit to us to continue. Because I mean, the community development director, when you talk about land use things, it's zoning information, it's plat review, it's dealing with engineering, things with just the design of a subdivision, with stormwater use and things like that. There's a lot of staff time needed to work on those projects. So I'm hoping that will help us quite a bit in that area. So I don't even know, I don't think we have to throw any money to advertising right now. And I think we're feeling the interest. I think the Highway 15 project was a huge benefit for us. I mean, that's really showing some interest in New London with developments and opportunities. So
You brought up advertising. I noticed the traffic is back on Highway 15 when we advertise on that billboard as well. That's a future idea.
But I don't even know if we need to advertise for residential growth right now because I'm struggling to keep up with the inquiries. So, which is a good thing. It's good that we're showing this interest, but I don't want to lose people either. I don't want to lose developers. So, but thank you for asking. That's a really good comment.
So I guess we just move forward with downtown facade grant and the billboard.
I would recommend that. you know, consider that when we're not ready for that yet, but that'll be more, we do that in February when we renewed that program. I would definitely consider that just by the comments and the interest I've had for another year. I think that's definitely good. You'll see another boost next year, I think, which is good.
So when was the last time we've done a traffic study? Is that something that could help our development of different areas and stuff? 'Cause I know different box stores, restaurants and such do look at our traffic study.
Mhm.
We've had all these out there for what, a year now? And all the development that's been going on, I mean, it's just gonna rise, I mean, especially after projects like SCS get done. But is that something we can look at that maybe will help out development?
Luckily, luckily, the DOT has all their traffic counts available, and we can just insert that into our GIS. So you can see the downtown, and there's all these points that we can bring up data. So for example, that point right there was recorded in May of 2025, and it's showing a daily average traffic count of 7,800 people at that location. They also have the historical data. Get that.
Is that people or vehicles?
Vehicles.
Where can you find that info?
I can pull it into our GIS.
Okay, can the general public find that?
Yes, there is. Try to find it first.
I was actually asked that by one of the constituents as I was getting signatures.
Yeah, so the short term is TC, traffic count maps. So if you Google traffic TC map, traffic count maps, Wisconsin DOT, you can come up to the Wisconsin DOT traffic counts and click on the interactive map. And it's just a ArcGIS, same thing as our ArcGIS. And it can bring up, you can look at the entire state, which is really cool. You can zoom in the city for New London.
As far as in town, I shouldn't say in town traffic, but in city traffic, is the majority go over the two bridges, or do we see more so because of 54 intersection?
I can tell you that it looks like on the Shawano Street Bridge, the average traffic count when they took that reading was 7,200 per day, and Pearl Street was 5,400 per day. So there's more, obviously more traffic going up the Shawano Street Bridge, 2,000 more a day-ish than Pearl Street.
Great information. So there's nothing really, no more that the economic development can do. We get all of our stuff.
No.
from the state. Okay.
And I've given this to developers too. I'm not gonna say who it is, but I was working with somebody that's, I'm working on a project that hopefully comes to fruition, and I was showing them traffic counts for an area in town. So I mean, we have traffic count data at our fingertips, which is really cool.
We'll go up towards Walmart.
Mhm.
Just-
The highest traffic count area for the entire city is at Shawano Street, which that's the only street from the north side to the south side. So that's over 10,000 a day.
Wow.
But once you get up to the Walmart area, I don't know if there's a way above on the north side, you're at 3,400. So it goes down quite a bit, but you know, just north of 54, you're at 10,000. You can see that the bypass, you know, there's over 8,000. So really cool traffic count data that we have at our fingertips.
I think the city's doing awesome. I think the chamber is doing amazing. I mean, we have events like every month that bring in thousands of people from the community. Our quality of life is awesome. Our downtown looks great. Yeah, our industry is slacking a little bit, but we have good industry that's been here for generations.
Yeah.
So,
and to your point, we try to keep the conversations with our existing businesses, the existing industry, to see, you know, especially in the Northeast Industrial Park, how can we help them expand? You know, what can we do if it's Wolf Cheese, if it's EJ Metals, you know, let's make sure that they're happy and they want to stay here and expand into London as well. Hans, I think I just need more time. If you can help with that.
What time of the day?
Yeah.
Give them 4 more hours.
Not that I want to work 4 hours.
Oh, okay, so if there's no other discussion on that, we can move on to updates and reports. Business updates, April.
Right, so I got a couple new updates for you. The first, super excited to announce, I can still remember getting an email from David Lamb, what was it, like 2 years ago? That he wanted to start a brewery and he wanted to start one in New London. It was on Saturday night and I emailed him immediately and said, yes, we want you in New London. Finally, David has landed on a proposed location out on Double D. So Quiet World Brewing is set to open in spring of 2027. So super excited. So more details on that to come. Next is another new business that is coming that I don't have a lot of details. I wanted to report on it because I reported on this location being vacant last month. And we just found out that there's a convenience store coming in. So more details coming soon. So that's at 102 East Cook Street, that little building that used to be a dry cleaners right next to the library. So I wanted to share that with you. Next, we found out in the paper that New London Press Star Buyer's Guide is unfortunately pulling out of New London, longstanding business at 301 South Pearl Street. They closed their location November 17th of 2025. I believe they're going to still stay open in Wapaka, but we're sad to see them go. So both Chad and I have reached out to that commercial property owner to see what we can do to support them to get a new business in there. Commercial listing updates. I wanted to let everyone know that we'll be doing a ribbon cutting for Tri-County Chiropractic coming soon here in January. So that's going to be the former Babes location. There's an accepted offer on our New London Family Diner. More details to come there. Looks like we have a new closed business coming to town in 2026. So more to come on that. We also are hoping to share more information on the Grand Cinema Theater. We are trying to reach out to the new owners so that we can share a little bit more about that proposed business as well. Any questions?
Has anybody figured out what's going to Piggly Wiggly yet?
Nope.
No, we've reached out and it's just crickets. So there hasn't been anybody over there in the last few weeks, though. I have a couple of people who are kind of like spying on them every time they come in. They run over to see if they can find out what's going on, but more to come, hopefully, on that.
Okay, thanks.
Is the brewery in the city limits?
It is not.
It is not. However,
But
if
he's gonna-
there is a interest in water and sewer services,
Which there will. So.
then I'm assuming there would be there's going to be quite a bit of a water need for a brewery.
Like the old Punchki farm, huh?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought barn looked like that.
Yeah, it's close, but
Well, there's water and sewer out there anyway.
there's water and sewer very close. I have to look if it's running in front. I think it
There's a
runs on the
picture of a
back.
fire hydrant, or in the
Yeah, there's
picture,
a fire
there's
hydrant right in front of the
there.
barn. So
That's
your
why-
water service,
That's why.
water main goes right down
Yep.
the
I think
center.
the sewer, not to get too in details right now, but I think the sewer runs on the backside.
That's not far off Spur Road.
Mhm.
I think the sewer goes down Spur Road and it's stuck in.
So this is the location of that barn brewery. And then the sewer comes over here. So there would have to be some type of extension at this point, more than likely, just at first blush.
Are they buying that whole chunk right there that Husky owns?
Not sure what
That's marked off in the yellow?
the scenario is. Yeah, there's water there, but the sewer is not.
No, but the sewer runs over the Spur Road.
Yeah, but there's water, like you said, there's a fire hydrant right there. The yellow line. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's buying, if they're gonna subdivide that off and chunk it off or what.
There's gonna be a silent partnership, I believe, with Punchki or Hanchki. So.
More to come.
Mhm.
Anything else, April?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, April. Chad?
I don't think I had much else for my report. Yeah, nothing else. I think we talked about a lot of what's going on right now, economic development wise in the last item that we talked about the 2026 focuses. So I got nothing else to report on.
Okay, then reviewing potential agenda items for the future, we've got the hotel feasibility study, transportation updates, childcare updates, housing updates. We will also be looking again at the facade grants, the billboards, and potentially doubling back on the Spark placemaking and what our role on that could be.
I had a recommendation of bringing Peyton in to give a end of year update on the grants between the city and the school chamber.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Maybe.
That would be great for the January meeting. Okay. Which that meeting date would be the 27th of January. Any conflicts with any of that?
For the billboard back that, do we have to decide fairly quick, because that's gonna be done while the ground's froze, right?
I sent them the information based on your feedback. It was water tower, substation, the verbiage. I sent it to them. We're just gonna run with what you guys, that direction that we had last
Okay,
time.
so
But I sent them that information. I have not heard anything back. I've not seen a proof yet. by any means, so.
So we could put that in, if it comes through, we can have that on the January so that we could potentially get stuff going.
Yeah, but I think we're running, I mean, you guys made the decision. That's
Yeah,
that's the
right.
theme. So we're gonna run with that. And if they can get it printed and get it up with the ground frozen,
Perfect.
there we go. But I have
Okay.
not seen a proof yet, so.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, then the next meeting will be the 27th at 5:15 right here. Anything else from anybody? Hearing nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Tim, second by John. All those in favor?